Hi, and thank you for joining me for another short talk. And friends, today I want to help you become a better Jewish religious debater. Now, of course, this will only help you if you embrace Orthodox Judaism as your religion of choice, but I'm sure it could also be educational for those who belong to different religions as well. Now, as someone who has had my fair share of religious debates, my first point of advice would be find out what are the building blocks of your religion. For example, as Jews, we have to realize that there are certain texts that are more authoritative than others, thus making some carry more weight than others. In other words, if you're trying to debate Judaism on the belief that everything carries equal weight or the same weight as everything else, you will lose a debate. In other words, if you plan to quote the words of the Ramchal as reverently as you quote the Chumash, you are basically stating that there is ultimately no firm foundation to what you believe by stating that books which appeared around 400 years ago can either alter or in any way add to your belief system. Friends, keep the scriptural hierarchy in mind when you're debating, and always start from the bottom up. And what is our scriptural hierarchy when discussing ideas with other religions, people like Muslims, Christians, Karaites, and even sometimes other Orthodox Jews? Friends, we must remind them that it's the Torah that's our basis for all we believe, and not the Talmud or the Kabbalah, but the 5 books of Moses. And I'm no Karaite. I'm a rabbinic Jew who believes in Torah Shabbat Peh. And this is extremely important, especially when debating Christians, which you would most likely be discussing theology with. Friends, with them, you must start with Torah. And if they can't respond their way through Torah, then you stick to Torah. In other words, why would any Judeo group be allowed to progress in any way with their theology if that theology cannot make it through the 5 books of Moses? And for sure, don't quote the Talmud or Kabbalah to them, even if they're trying to drag you into that rabbinic arena. And this leads me to my other tip. Friends, the tip is that you will not be able to win an argument with any sectarian if you allow the use of midrashim or mystical rabbinic statements or ideas as something authoritative. Not because they all endorse Christianity or any other group, but just because there are so many of them that go every which way. In other words, I've already said that a knowledgeable Kabbalist would lose a debate against a knowledgeable Messianic, mainly because the Kabbalist is of the opinion that virtually all midrashim are from God, and the Messianic is also of the belief that only those midrashim or Kabbalistic statements that justify JC are from God in his perspective. In other words, you'll get a lot of, that's not what it means, and you need to ask someone more knowledgeable than me that question. Friends, that's what you'll hear from the Kabbalists when debating a Messianic, and we've seen it countless times. So stick to Torah. Now, those I debate already know that my camp, and in my opinion, traditional Judaism, always viewed midrashim as secondary, and by the simple fact that virtually they always contradict each other, and in many cases are of unknown authorship, they can never be used to prove theological points that are not already mentioned in Torah. So again, remember the scriptural hierarchy, which is Torah, or anything dealing with the 613 mitzvot for anything metaphysical, and the Mishnah for dealing with anything legal in terms of Jewish law, halakha, and its codifications and commentaries, including the Gemara. And all texts that derive from the Mishnah, both Talmud, Bavli, and Yerushalmi, the Toseftot, the Sefra, the Sefri, the Mechilta, you get the point. And a big help to understanding Mishnaic literature is learning codifications of Jewish law, like we just said, Mishneh Torah and Shulchan Aruch. And the main reason I typically tell people to learn Mishneh Torah, the Mishneh Torah of the Rambam specifically, is because in regards of going back to what's authoritative, if something is not mentioned in Mishneh Torah, it's typically not in the Talmud either, right? That means it may have just crept into Judaism in different ways, or was possibly just created by a later community. In other words, it's not authoritative on all of Israel to accept it. Thus, it can't be used in an argument. And you know what? The Mishneh Torah is typically the litmus test. Now, the same cannot be said about the Shulchan Aruch and other later codifications of Jewish law like Mishnah Berurah, Shulchan Aruch Harav, etc. Why? Because they're not complete and they're built off typically the Rambam, but they add a lot of things. But you know what? It's better than nothing. So remember, stick to the Talmud and its codifications, or what I like to call just codifications of oral law, which all stem from the Mishnah. And that's pretty much it. So with a simple, firm foundation like the one I just explained, your statements will carry much more undeniable weight and allow you to make more short to the point responses and put your opponent away quicker, which is really the tactic you should be aiming for. And another thing, friends, you guys really have to be careful what you spend your time studying. I mean, time is our most valuable commodity, right? So if you're like me, who has been in the Jewish educational system for the last 20 years or less, friends, you don't have the option of wasting your time on opinion literature if you want to be a good debater. In other words, if you're reading books of the Ramchal or books like Garden of Emunah, or stuck trying to master the Noid laws, you're not ready to debate. And friends, let me fill you in on a little secret. The reason I've been so successful in virtually all my debates, I think 50 to date, with rabbis, Karaites, Messianics, etc., is because the majority of what I study outside of Torah itself has been within Jewish law and Jewish history. Friends, if you understand these two areas well, you will always win. Why? Because nothing writes someone off better like showing that they are ignorant of Jewish law and Jewish history. In other words, you can know as much Kabbalah as you want, to read every book on Musar out there, but if you don't know Jewish law or Jewish history, you will look ignorant. Why so? Friends, because in Judaism, virtually every mystical idea arose out of a legal one, and Jewish history allows you to put it all in context and better educate your opponent and audience, that you can see and explain the big picture better than your opponent can. And that's really the main thing you should be debating here, the big picture. In other words, if you focus or jump on him on every little thing, you'll look like a bully, which you don't want to do also. Now, I know that reading is not so prevalent in how people learn nowadays, and that people rely on video and audio. And friends, I must tell you, in order to grow in knowledge and be a good debater, you must listen to lectures that are there to teach, not lectures that are there to stir up emotion or make you feel good, but teach actual Torah, both written and oral law, and not anything mystical. Again, if you want to be a good debater. Not that it's bad to occasionally listen to certain lectures that deal with Musar and Tshuva and all this stuff. That's fine. It can help you from a devotional perspective, right? I mean, it can inspire you, but it's not going to help you be a good debater. For example, I tell people if they want to be proficient in debating Judaism, stay away from websites like Torah Anytime, Chabad.org, or anything geared for Gentiles only, or anything dealing with Kabbalah, and go to more academic sites like Yeshiva University's YU Torah, or Machon Meir, or the Lections of Rabbi Frand, Rabbi Berowine, Ken Spiro, and the like. Now, I'm saying that other websites, now, I'm not saying that other websites are bad, again, but they are bad if you're trying to learn something that you can use in an authoritative manner. I mean, something that's binding for anyone who accepts a Torah and Torah Shabbat Peh to be true. Now, if it seems that all this is just very complicated, I'll give you a very simplified version of everything I just said here. Friends, it's very simple. To be a good debater in Judaism, you have to master the 5 books of Moses, the Mishneh Torah of the Rambam's Sefer HaMitzvot, and get a good grasp on Jewish history. I actually have Rabbi Ken Spiro's complete crash course in Jewish history on my website for free. The audios, they're great, and I think if you master that, that's all you really need to know about Jewish history. Learn these, and you will likely know more than 99% of every rabbi in the U.S. Not because many rabbis are not studious, but rather they're studious in books and topics that really, at the end of the day, are really not that essential to Judaism. And friends, that's just my 2 cents. For more information about everything Jewish, please visit TorahJudaism.org. Thank you.